Open your Bible back to Psalm 84. We finished last week, and we're going to run into verse number 3. We're going to pull a few things out relating to mothers. And I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but if you went to public school, you don't know what this means. But today, May the 8th, celebrated World War II Victory VE Day. And if you went to public school, most people never understood what VE was, and all that meant was victory in Europe. Getting ready for us to drop everything in the world upon Japan. I'll give you one real quick, free, don't cost you nothing in case you don't know. When we dropped the big bombs in Japan, a lot of people don't know this, but we had already killed 100,000 Japanese. We had been bombing them for 30 days with incendiary white phosphorus. White phosphorus doesn't stop burning. People, car, concrete, don't matter. It just burns. We bombed them for 30 days before we pulled out the nuke. And the reason being was Japan kept saying we'll surrender, but we want to keep the emperor in place. And Truman says, you're not going to keep anybody in place that we don't appoint. And that's when he said, they've not had enough, drop it. And it's horrible to think that in a matter of 35 days there, 212,000 people perished. I mean, the numbers just blow my mind, to think about humanity like that. But I just thought that was, in case you didn't know, Mother's Day at this point in time is observed in over 40 countries around the world. It's funny because it's sort of like Christmas. When you go overseas, they celebrate it, but not necessarily on the same day that we do. Finland and Norway, rather, they celebrate it in February. A couple of countries like that celebrate it in March. The bulk of them still celebrate it in May. But if you'll notice in Psalm 84, he said, admirable are thy tabernacles, O Lord of hosts. My soul longeth, yea, even fainteth for the courts of the Lord. My heart, my flesh crieth out for the living God. Yea, the sparrows have found an house, and the swallows a nest for herself, where she may lay her young, even thine altars, O Lord of hosts, my King and my God. And I want to just give simple thoughts out of this on the plan for mothers. We have a lot of people today, and I'm not trying to be this, but I'm fixing to be that. Because most of us, when we started having a family, we wasn't 100% sure what we were getting into. We thought we may have known something about it. We read a book about it and thought we babysitted kids before. I said kids, I didn't say children. You didn't trust me with no child. I like goats. Why? You could like their tail, watch them run across the pasture. They were fun. Can't do that with a baby in a diaper. Parents get mad. You stop and you think, we really didn't have a clue what we were getting into. I did read a quote last night. He said, I have learned and have found this to be true. The more children we have, the worse parents we become. There is some truth to that. When you get a baby home, you think everything's going to happen bad to the baby. By the third, it's like, get out there, you'll be all right. If the bone ain't sticking out, rub some dirt on it, you'll be fine. The first baby, oh, don't touch that. That is gross. The second baby, I'll pick it up and eat it. It'll be all right. Honey, what are they eating? No worry, he'll teach you something. Many of y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. Nobody knows. I understand that. But we see in this, and he's referring to David and the psalmist's affection for the tabernacle. Most historians, they point to the fact that it was probably David that wrote it, and his desire to always be. And he's making the reference here, and if you'll notice, he's using the sparrow and the swallow as his reference points for us to look at. And you know, when I was growing up, everything in the community centered around the churches. Everything. See, most of y'all in here, if you're under the age of 30, if you're in the country, if you're under the age of 50 in Shreveport-Bossier, you're not going to understand what I'm saying, but used to, noon on Wednesday, everything closed down. Everything closed noon on Wednesday. Why? So people could get home, get ready, get dressed, be well rested, eat a good meal, and go to church that night. There was a tornado years ago that ripped through North Carolina and wiped out one of the shopping centers. Nobody was hurt. Came through 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday afternoon. They said any other day of the week, Monday through Saturday, any other day, there would have been hundreds that would have been injured or killed. It wiped that shopping center out on a Wednesday. I remember as a child growing up what's called a blue law. If you were the store open on a Sunday, you could only buy X, Y, and Z. And if it wasn't deemed what they considered an emergency, you couldn't buy anything. Tell Walmart, we're going to close you on Sunday.
Good luck today.
But I know with our company, most times we start Monday in the hole. Time we pay payroll for what little business we do, you have to have everybody there, quote unquote, for the tire kickers coming through that's not going to buy, but you have to have them in case somebody wants to. You start most Mondays in the hole. Then why are we open on Sunday? To me, it's foolish. But now Walmart, buddy, I'm going to tell you something. You go in there on Sunday, you'll get run over. But everything when we grew up was based on the church. Everything today is based on everything but the church. Entertainment, school, society. Everything that keeps us from the house of God is what we're based on. I mean, when I was growing up, you didn't have ball practice on Wednesday. You didn't play anything on Sunday. Now that's just another day of the week. And if your child wants to compete, they have to do that. That's what they tell you. And I'm not trying to be a harsh critic, people. I'm not trying to be mean. But we have to make a decision what's best for the child, for them serving God, not what they necessarily want to do. And you said, preacher, but wait a minute, you don't understand children. I do understand children. I understand something right now. I'm going to tell you something about little boys real quick. Have y'all ever seen a little boy that wanted to take a bath? Oh, that's gross. I gotta go wash my hands 3 or 4 times and take 2 or 3 baths because that's just gross. Oh, let me play with that. You need to take a bath. Why? I clean. See, that's it. But you know, if you teach that child how to take a bath, it's not long enough till he gets old enough you realize, you know what, I understand why I need to take a bath. And when they get to be teenagers, you don't have to threaten them. You got to choke them, slap them around a little bit, but you ain't got to threaten them. They can find the bathtub all by themselves. But you still got to remind them that there's soap in there for a reason. I'm just saying. I never had to fight mine. as a teenager. Hey, you need to go take a shower. No, never had to. Why? Because they figured out why you take a shower. You know what? Going to church the same way. We figure out why it's so important. You don't have to fight those battles with them. But the problem is we keep them away from church. They're not part of church growing up. And then when they get to be 12, 13, 14, the trouble begins to come in the home. We want to send them to church, and all of a sudden church is going to have a solution. We don't. The solution is you get them at the house of God when they're still in the nest. You keep them in the house of God. And you know what happens? They end up bringing their litter up in the house of the Lord. And that's how you win the battle. We're having Christians in churches, Christians, trying to figure out if homosexual is right or not. If abortion is legal and right. The biggest serial killers in America, and you can talk about Ted Bundy and all that you want to, the biggest serial killer is an abortionist. Whether you like it or not. Well, preacher, you're just... No, listen to me. I'm going to be tacky for a moment. But I got news for you right now. If they don't sleep together, they don't have to worry about abortion. Touchdown, both feet back at the end zone. You can get mad at me or like it, but it's good. I've never seen a virgin to the day she gets married worried about having an abortion. Come talk to me. Who worries about having the abortion or having the right to abortion? Yeah. And I love this statement, and I'm going to be just as ugly as I can because I like to. I love this statement. Well, you don't understand what a woman has to go through. Hey, you got a DNA. Carry him to the courts and keep him there. You can get money out of him for the next 20 years. Get it all from him. And if they don't pay, guess what? They become customers where two of my sons work. The Bard Hotel. You said, preacher, that's me. No, I'm saying it's fair for both. The men ought not never get away with anything. But I'm telling you right now, if they're not sleeping around, don't neither one of them have to worry about it. I don't worry about people that are serving God worried about, well, what happens if I get pregnant? Have you heard that? I don't hear that. The ones I hear worried about that is the ones out there doing stuff. My mother went in one time talking to a doctor and was asking, said, I want to be honest with you. Said, what is the best form of birth control? He said, orange juice. She said, what are you talking about? He said, orange juice. He said, drink your glass of orange juice and go to bed. You'll never have to worry about having a child. But if you have sex, any shape, form, or fashion, there is no guarantee you will not get pregnant. Period. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah.
If you're not having sex, you're not getting pregnant. It's just that simple. People, I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm just trying to be honest. My mother said, I've already got 3 kids, and she had me, so good grief. I mean, come on, I was born on Mother's Day. Greatest gift ever been. I never have to buy another gift. Born on Mother's Day. Why? She would, after I was born, she would ask the doctor that, I don't know. Shut up, don't need to go there. But I'm just telling you, I asked her one time, I said, Mom, what would you done if I was twins? She said, one of y'all would have drowned. I told God you died by smallpox. I thought for a minute. I think she meant it. Let me break this down real quick. Notice the first thing. You see, they found a house for themselves. Mothers, ladies, if you want to be successful, find where you need to be for God. Period. Get where you're supposed to be first. if you're where you're supposed to be when the children come along, you've already got a practice that's going to keep them where they need to be. It's just that simple. Our biggest problem is we try to overthink this. Well, I'm gonna tell you something real quick. I'm gonna give you free advice. Don't cost nothing. You're already sitting here. At my house, it was very, very simple. The rules were simple. Okay? You're better off to have 5 rules you enforce 7 days a week than 200 rules you enforce only when you get mad. Like in my house, we never had a no running in the house rule. Never. And everybody here is saying it. Oh, now let my children. Well, the reason why my children was running was normally I was chasing them. So it's hard trying to tell them you can't run in the house when I'm doing the chasing. Just didn't seem right. So that wasn't a rule. I did catch one time when Joseph was running, he was going to come out and catch and run in the bathroom and lock the door. And he's running in place and he's got socks. And as he's running, the carpet's just catching and you're watching the socks go all the way down his feet. And he is running in place trying to get in that bathroom. He can't get traction for nothing. It cost us a love seat, but I dropped him, okay? Furniture had to go. It had to happen. People, simple rules. Don't make it complex. Get where we need to be for God. When they come along, we've already got a practice that's established. That when they come along, they will fit into us. And we will be able to fit into them. Simple. Man, everybody today wants to make it complex. I hear these people overthinking. Well, if my child is acting this way, he's acting like a fool. Period. Well, I want to know why my child is acting that. I don't care. If I tell you to do it and you don't do it, you're not going to like the consequences. Now, I'm not going to go in and bully my child and holler and scream at him. But if I tell you don't do this and you reach over and do it, it's going to be a bad day. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. We make things way too complex. You notice the sparrow and the swallow. 2 of what's considered the least prized possessions in all of the promised land. They're worthless, if you will. 5 sparrows sold for 2 farthings. They're very, very simple. They're very, very economic. I don't know if you look at them, they ain't got much meat on them. They're out in the yard all the time. You see sparrows bouncing around everywhere. You go into any parking lot that has any type of food and you see them little birds bouncing around. That's the little sparrows we're talking about. But if you look up on the letters of the signs, you'll see they have nests built. Those nests are there for a reason. Because predators are not going to get to them while they're there. They're safe. They're secure. So the sparrow and the swallow is going to where they're going to find the greatest safety. Back then, I don't know if you know this or not, you probably don't. They didn't have a Walmart back then. They didn't have a Dollar Tree. They didn't have a Target. So the securest place you had back then would be the temple and the tabernacles. The place where people were visiting on a constant basis, and all the animals and the prey would be separated. The wolves would not be there. The birds of prey would not be there. And the sparrow and the swallow could go and actually build a nest and find a nest and hatch a clutch of eggs and then be safe and sound. Not only that, they found a comfortable nest. They found what was comfortable for them. There are too many people today trying to do things to please other people than just do what God has called you to do. Keep it simple. Y'all know what the KISS program is? Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple. Don't make it complex. If you have a need in your life, where do you go to get it fixed? We start with prayer, we look at the Word of God, and we wait for God to do something. Hello? Simple. We want to make things so complex today. As if we're smarter than our forefathers. Our forefathers knew what a male and a female was without a DNA test. We have to DNA test to figure out what it is, and then we're not too sure. I'm waiting to see what they're going to start writing down on birth certificates. Question marks. Male or female, I don't know. I heard that airhead they put on the Supreme Court. She said, well, I'm not a biologist. I don't know what's a male and a female. You can't be that brain damaged. You can't. You can't. There's not enough drugs in the world to make your head that empty. I'm telling you, people, it's amazing how embarrassing we are. Oh, people, it's time to realize. Notice something. Go to 2 Timothy chapter 1. Look at verse number 5. Paul, as he's writing this letter, he said, when I call to remembrance the unfeigned faith that is in thee, which dwelt first in thy mother Lois and thy mother Eunice, and I'm persuaded that in thee also. You see, there's a lineage. It started with Lois, then it went to Eunice, and that's in Timothy. You get them around the house of God. You get them in the place where they need to be. Now listen, I'm going to run this rabbit while we're here. Not all churches will preach the gospel and do what's right. I don't care if they're small, I don't care if they're big or they're in between. You got to look at the church you're looking at that God sent you to. You think God wants you to go, and you've got to take it at that and look at it and see, is this really where God wants me? Whether it's large or it's small, that doesn't matter. Is it a place where God has called you that you can participate, you can serve God, you can rear your children for God? It's the most important things. Not only that, notice that they enjoyed being there. If you'll notice, they found in the house, in the swallow, a nest for herself, where she may lay her young, even thine altars. She found a place that was safe, a place that was secure, a place that, if it's the altars, guess what? There's going to be praise, there's going to be harmony, there's going to be joy. If we get where Christ is, there's going to be liberty. That's what Paul told the church of Corinth. Where the Spirit of Christ is, there's liberty. There's liberty there. Christians ought to be known for praise. And I ain't talking about jumping around, dancing around, and running all the building and doing that. I'm just talking about somebody that's happy. It's sad to say most of the grumpiest people I know belong to Baptist churches. Just be honest. They grumpy. And you know how well I don't do that. I'm going to say something. The preacher, one of these days you're going to get in trouble. I know. And that's going to be so fun. People, I'm just tired of it. I hear people cry, holler, and scream and fuss. And I just have to, what's the matter with you? God not blessed you today? God disowned you? God thrown you away? I said, preacher, those are stupid questions. Think about it. Then why do we get grumpy? Why do we get upset? Why do we get mad? Because we want to. If you don't want to, you wouldn't do it. You get mad because you want to. Preacher, how do you know that? Because I can get mad too. And you know what? As hard as I try to blame other people, do you know whose fault it is? Man. It happens to all of us while we're in a fleshly body, but it doesn't make it right. I was talking about the other day with children being upset and letting their child cry for no reason. I'm not going to let a child cry for no reason. You cry for no reason around me, I'm going to give you a reason. You said, preacher, that's not right. That is right. Because when they get to be old, guess what? They want to revert back to that. I ain't putting up no 20-year-old baby.
Thank you.
I ain't doing it. It's going to be it's going to be bad. These snowflakes that are being told no when they get told no for the first time. Ah! And I'm going to be there, buddy. Eating that ice cream, eating that popcorn. This is good TV. And said, preacher, that's not right. I said it was fun. Not everything fun is right. But that, I think, would be right. Think about it, people. Do we not get upset because we want to? We're in a bad mood, so everything makes us upset. It's the way life is. If we let it. But if we're always happy in what God's doing and we're praising God, guess what's happening? Yeah. We'll be the happiest people in the world. I was at the counter one day at Walmart. I was messing around with everybody. Y'all know I never mess with nobody, but I was cutting up. Lady goes, oh, you must be one of them Assembly of God people. I said, oh, no, ma'am, no, I'm not. I know where I'm going when I die. They hoping they make it. That's simple. Said, preach, that's mean. You talk to them, they believe they can lose their salvation. I'm not losing mine. Mine's in Jesus Christ. Restoring to me the joy of thy salvation. Not mine, thine. Belongs to him. He gave it to me. It's mine because of him. I'm glad it's not mine. I can't keep open car keys half the time. Hello. Know you had those problems? I lost mine the other day. We tore the house up 3 days. Ain't found them yet. Bobo kicks the couch and they fell out behind the cushion. How they got back there, I'll never know. If he never would have kicked the couch, we never would have found them. He kicked out there. Wait a minute. Ooh, I know that sound. Do that again. Marla goes, what in the world are they doing there? I said, I don't know. I have no idea. She was going to be smart, get one of them things, you know, where you clap and it goes on. My voice triggers. I walks in the room, it goes off. Every time I walked in the room, hello, beep, 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 beep. She was going to be smart one night, bring it to church. Every time I said something, it triggered it. I don't know. So my keys get lost. If I can lose my keys, I can lose my salvation. Okay, you don't lose your keys. When's your next doctor's appointment? Where is that card at? Or do you wait for the phone to ring to figure out, oh, it's tomorrow. What time is it? Oh, she said 2 o'clock. Oh, I knew it was tomorrow at 2. Now you're lying to everybody. How do you know that? Because I don't know when my next one is neither. It's true though, people. It's true. Aren't you glad it's his salvation? I can rejoice. I know where I'm going when I die. I'm not hoping, I'm knowing. People, notice the nest for the young. A nest for herself where she may lay her young. People, I'm telling you, you stop and think about the birds. My wife's got a bird box in the backyard, birdhouse, bluebird house. Every time, the last 2 years, they go and they try to lay eggs in it, and we just go ahead and have a funeral for the eggs. They're not going to make it. I don't know why. They're not. Sunday before last, she decided to look in the bird box, and this snake came out after. She was not really happy. So I catch him and I put him out of the box. And I got ready to throw him away. She goes, no. I said, executioner? She said, executioner. I don't want him in that bird box again. I hope the bluebirds have figured out after 3 years it's not worth going back in that box. It looks like a good box. If you could keep the snakes out of it, it would be a good box. But you know what? You go into the stores downtown and you see them in the great big letters of the signs. You don't see snakes getting in there. Those mothers pick the right places. I'll give you a free one real quick. You'll love this one. It costs you nothing. You're already sitting here. We used to raise parakeets all the time. And the first female died, and we got another one. We had several clutches with her, and she got egg bound, and she died, and we went and got another one. And the lady that sold us to us, she said, this, is a real good female and all this stuff. And we get home, we put the brood box on the cage, and the male goes nuts. And it's like, a few weeks later, the beak changed colors. If you know anything about parakeet, she sold us for a female was a male. And that bird figured out there was a male in that box with him. And we put that brood box on. He didn't want no part of that box. So you let them tell you all day long that animal, no, it ain't happening. Safety. Not only that, and I'll give you a couple things real quick. There's going to be safe, and that safety is going to be there for their security. The sparrows may be a low-range bird. The swallows are the great flyers. They're up on the hillside. They're bad about covering distance. They're a hard target to hit. But even when the swallows get ready to have their children, they go back to where it's the safest. Train up a child in the way to go. When he's old, he'll not depart from it. We need to understand that God's given us where we can educate, we can teach, we can train, so our children won't be used of the devil tomorrow. It's sad, but most of them, the devil's chewing them up and spitting them out right now. There are so many children right now that don't even know what their identity is anymore. They're confused. They're frustrated. Isn't suicide number one among teenagers? And that's only going to go higher. Because see, the devil knows if they commit suicide as a teenager, they'll never get saved. He knows what he's doing. And most parents are so, I just want my child to be happy. I don't care what they do. If they're happy, I'm happy with it. Can't do that. Can't do it. I ain't going to put up that 30 seconds. Why? Because they're destroying their life and the lives of those around them. Sometimes knows the right answer. Aren't you glad your parents didn't always tell you yes? Because there's a couple of things I wanted to do that wouldn't have worked out too good. None of y'all would have had the ideas that I had. I could look at some things I thought, you know what? I can jump this with a skateboard from here to there. It's only 30 feet. If I'm going fast enough. And I'm about as agile on a skateboard as you are. Yeah, you heard that right. But there was a gully there. And what are gullies made for? To be jumped. And my parents would holler and scream, and I'd never do it. When as I walk today, I'm so glad they told me no a lot of times. I jumped everything on a bicycle. I never could get the front wheel to hit last. If you know anything about bicycle jump, if the front wheel hits first, it's a wreck. I have never jumped anything successful of any distance. But dude, I have wiped out a whole bunch of times. Preacher, why do you have neck problems? Leave me alone when I'm preaching to you. You leave me alone right now. I'll talk about my problems later. Aren't you glad people told you no along your life's journey? Aren't you glad even as an adult Christian people looked you in the face once in a while and said, you know what, that's not right? Not to be mean, but to help you. Because we want you to be around come next year. And the next year. Teenagers today, if you tell them no, it's just like our generation. You tell us no, you don't love me. Here, take the keys, jump the road. I'm watching. Go. Not in my car, though. You go buy your own, then you can jump. Tell you what, I'll even suit the motor up. Make sure you got plenty of speed in it. Now, David, if you want to go, go. I need an ambulance and a cop car. Y'all go ahead and move. This fool's fixing to jump. It's going to be good. Y'all need to get over to Kelvin's. This is going to be good. Go ahead. Go. What's the matter? You scared? That's when parenting really starts. You scared? Go ahead and hit it. Why? Because they don't do it if you're standing there. They're going to do it as soon as you go in the house. I at least want to laugh when they're in the air. Because I'm going to cry when they hit the ground. Throw a party when they hit the ground. Isn't it true? Aren't you glad people have told you as a teenager and adult sometimes no? No's not a bad word. No can be a safe word. No gets us out of a lot of trouble. Listen, not only that, the nearer we get to God, the closer we are to His blessings. The closer we are to His fellowship. The closer we are to His grace. And notice the next thing, and we'll finish with this. When you think of a child, children are not drawn to do things that are right. How many of y'all have to teach a child how to lie? Teach a child how to cheat. Teach a child how to throw a fit. Teach a child how to do anything that's bad. Why? They have a natural sinful nature that teaches them all that. You have to teach them what not to do. There's a natural man in them that doesn't desire the things of God. They have to be taught that. And I'll finish with this. How many of y'all, if you spent as much time teaching your child anything in life as you did about God, how many of them would make a good Christian? See, that's the only thing that matters. Because people, we were talking about this morning in Sunday school, I've heard the reports, I don't know if it's true or not, but they say we're heading to a recession we have never seen in our lifetime. Yeah. $7, $8 a gallon of gas. They say bread is fixing to go up in the next 30 days. It's going to go up at least 35%. Just stop and think, people. I'm not trying to be, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But I do like the fact that if things go up, the same God that fed me yesterday is going to be the same God that feeds me tomorrow. I didn't eat yesterday because I had money in the bank. I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm like the rest of y'all. How many of y'all identify with the po folk? Now, some of y'all may not want to identify with the po folk because you think you are class. But if you're in this church, you're down with the po folk. I didn't say poor. I can't afford the second O and the R. We just po. But the same God that fed me yesterday is going to feed me if gas goes to $10 a gallon. Because I have an anchor. And Jesus Christ doesn't change. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Hebrews chapter 4 tells us we've got an anchor that holds us. The winds are going to blow. The storms are going to go crazy. We don't know what we're going to face tomorrow. But let me tell you something. Christ is still on the throne and the weather is still good in heaven. And I'm not worried about it. What happens if all these things go bad? I don't know if you know it or not. But God got us this far for a reason. And He ain't going to sell us out now. So I believe I can still trust this book. And I believe that when He says, I am the good shepherd. I believe when He says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. I believe when He said He shall supply all my need according to His riches and glory. I believe those, and that gives me stability. It gives me an anchor regardless what happens. And you know where I learned that? I learned that in this book right here, hanging around good Christian men like Brother Purple and Brother White. I learned that hanging around those individuals that taught me. Man, we first got in church, my wife and I, we thought we knew what we were doing. God taught us, we really didn't. Got us around some people that really taught us how to be the people God would want us to have. People, that's what I encourage you. If you have children and grandchildren, take the time you have and spend as much time on that, teaching them as you do anything else. Why? Because that's the only thing that's going to matter. Well, I want them to get in a good school. I want them to get into heaven. I ain't worried about school. You know how I know that? People, I'm not trying to be ugly. I'm not. You look at most of the smartest men in the world, they're poor. Most of the rich men in the world, they're not brilliant. I'm not saying they're not smart, but if you put them in an Einstein room, they're going to fail. But some of them, God has taught and trained and done some things with. They've done some things. I'll finish this one real quick. Brother James Denman passed away the other day. And just to show you what Brother James Denman did. When missionaries started going into Central and South America, and Miss Harris can tell you this, they were going in and they were trying to reach a village at a time. And they would go in and they would take a year before they get to where they know the people. And they fought all this struggle. And it's 3-4 years before you actually begin to develop a work in a foreign country. It's just the way it is. Well, he would go in and buy radio time and send radios to all the villages around that radio station. And when he would start getting letters in, ask for correspondence course, he'd start sending the correspondence courses. And as he'd get 4 or 5 families, he'd start going to these towns. Well, they'd meet him at the border because they knew who he was. Man, he'd come into town. They'd meet at the city limits, boy. They would welcome him in, and now all of a sudden he's going to church. There's 30 people the first Sunday. He did that throughout Central and South America. Started churches everywhere. Something simple like that, most missionaries had not even been given by God. At one time, he had 140 stations going in Argentina. 24 works on the ground at one time. 24 works. Had different missionaries working with him, of course. But it's things like that that God gave him that nobody else has got. People, I'm just saying, mothers, you got the greatest opportunity in the world. Be the Christian God have you to be. Teach them the ways of God. Train them in that book. And you know what? They'll have an anchor the rest of their life.